a second. All right. So first of all, we want to be able to thank you for all your valuable comments and feedback you all have provided in the previous FRAC, and of course in this FRAC as well. We want to inform you that we are actively reviewing all your input as well feedback we have received from the community, partners, and staff. Your contributions are critical to shaping this process. At this time, it is likely that we will hold another RAC meeting on the month of February. During that session, we will share and discuss any proposed changes and provide an opportunity for further engagement. We do not have details at this moment, but we'll follow up as soon as we know with more details, including the exact date and time of the meeting. And now we'll go into the community agreements. So I'll stop sharing and I'll let Jenny share that. And as well as before we start with the community agreements, if you can please put in the chat your full name and if you represent any agencies. That way, if there are any follow-ups that we would need to go back and do or clarifications, we can reach out to you all to get that information as we are incorporating the feedback and comments that you all have. So again, the community agreements, we want to make sure that we state it here. And one is participate and be present to the best of your ability. Understand that we are all collectively learning and growing. Create a safe space to allow for dialogue about our work. Strive to have inquiry over judgment and assume positive intent. Be respectful for your words and communication. Communicate in a way that works for you. Invite laughter, compassion, and gratitude into conversation. Acknowledgement is not agreement. And understand that some things may feel unresolved, and take care of your minds and bodies. So, with that being said, let's start off on the OERs. And we will start on page 23. Want to go over a bit, give it a bit more time on the standard for license renewal. There was quite a bit of comments that we couldn't get to, but just wanted to give a bit more time, a few minutes for this. If anyone has any comments or feedback or things that we didn't capture in the previous rec. So that would be line item 818 to 875.
Sorry, this is Marissa Cade. So application for licensure section 00 that ends in 0020, correct?
It is for sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so are you reviewing applications for licensure in section 0020? I'm looking at a copy of the proposed rules that does not include the line numbers because we had decided to go section by section rather than by line. So if you could be sure to announce what section we're in, that would be helpful.
Yeah, standard for license renewal.
I just,
or
excuse me.
OER.
I just put it in the chat so you can reference the page and.
Hello, could you possibly enlarge the screen? Thank you.
So once again, it's standard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, it's standard for license renewal 411-039-0030, line item 818-872-875.
I'm so sorry. Can I interrupt to say that I'm looking at the version with lines that you sent out, line numbers, excuse me, and that 0030 on mine is not license renewal. It's standards for initial licensure. So I'm afraid that I'm looking at like an old document or
No,
Same.
actually it is, sorry, I apologize for that. It is standards for initial license. And we'll go into the license renewal after this, but we're just going over this part we went over previous, the RAC meeting, and just wanted to make sure if anyone else has any more comments. But it is OAR 411-039-0030. And we do have Marissa.
Yeah, thank you. Down in sub 9, a license is valid for 1 year unless earlier revoked or suspended by the department and the authority. And then there's some more information here about the license being posted and all the initial details there. And it just seems like um, this whole section is pretty unnecessarily burdensome. And I just wanted to make note of that and that it would be disruptive to services if there's questions regarding an annual license renewal and if anything were to come up. So I just think or I just wanted to register that there's a lot of this is pretty overbearing language.
Thank you for that feedback, Marissa. All right. If anyone doesn't have any other feedback or comments, we'll go into the next. Oh, Rachel.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on where did the year limitation, where did that come from? And does it match other licensing types or provider types in the similar licensure?
Are you talking about line item 827 where it says regarding the 2 years?
I thought there was part in this section that referenced an annual
Let me find it.
license, like an annual kind of accreditation.
Yeah, it's under 9. A license is valid for 1 year unless earlier revoked or suspended by the department.
Thank you,
Right,
Beth.
that's it. Yeah. So we're kind of wondering where
So
that
yeah,
comes
what
from
is that?
whether it matches other kind of similar licensing types. 1 year seems limited. I think other folks are 2. So just wondering for more information on that.
Definitely. And this is something that next RAC week we'll look into it. And thank you for your feedback and get back to you guys. Marissa, not sure if you have another question.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, you're good. I just wanted to make sure if you did, we were able to capture that. Okay, so we can go now. This one will be for standard for license renewal next. OAR 411-039-0040. And this is line item 877-932. If anyone has any feedback or comments. I'll give it a few more seconds. If not, we'll go into the provider enrollment section, which is 411. Rachel?
I just wanted to flag, I was doing some prep on this and I was looking at the agenda. I didn't see this as part of the agenda. What I saw was going from standards for initial licensure to the provider enrollment section. The 0050. So I was a little confused because the kind of the markup version that I got, it had some of the wrong numbering on some of them. So I'm not sure. I just want to flag, I'm not sure if I saw this as part of the original agenda, and I'm unclear if I was able to kind of look through this beforehand.
No, yeah. So first of all, we did skip a few areas because there was a few things that we still needed to work on regarding, that's why we didn't go in order last RAC meeting. The standard for license renewal, I believe that one got missed. And that's something that we also will bring up in the next RAC for next month. But if anyone has any questions other than that, the provider enrollment is next. And like I mentioned, I think the first three were, it's going back because we were just making sure that we needed to discuss a few other things before we presented at least those three sections of the OER. Deverett?
Yeah, so I had a question. Are you going to require an agency with choice to be a Medicaid provider?
They would have to enroll in submit a provider enrollment application. Yes.
Okay, so the way the rule is written is essentially they just have to be a provider to receive Medicaid payment. There isn't anything specific in the rule that requires them to be a Medicaid provider, which I feel like is an important piece given that we will only have two agencies with choice.
Thank you for that. Marissa? Oh, Rachel. I don't know if Rachel, sorry,
Yeah, I did
Oh,
have my hand up. I was wondering in this, I had flagged to ask the question of who or what the agency's licensing board is. Like, I don't know who that is or where to go for more information. Could you clarify? So I'm seeing that as line 941, 942 references the agency's licensing board or certifying organization. I don't know what that is or means.
It'll be the department in the Oregon Health Authority that licenses these two agencies. And to the comment about why there will only be two agencies with choice, that is specified in the House bill.
thank you, Jason. Marissa?
Thank you. Sorry, unmuting problems.
No, no worries.
Okay, so I'm actually going to pop this in the chat because I am a little confused. So this is the agenda that I'm looking at. For instance, it says 0250 variance, but we're at provider enrollment at 0050. Oh, we're not at 250 yet. Okay, I see. So we're up here at 50 provider enrollment. All right, I just wanted to make sure I'm following along correctly because I have a lot of tabs
Comments.
and notes open in front of me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, no worries. Once again, for the previous RAC, we skipped a few sections in the beginning. since we were still working on a few things. So I believe after the provider enrollment, we start going in order as where we left off from the previous rack. But we do apologize that, but we had to skip a few sections. Any other questions on the or feedback on the provider enrollment? Deborah?
Just one additional comment. So if providers are required to be a Medicaid provider, you may want to add some specific language in the provider enrollment in terms of what occurs if for some reason they're unable to enroll as a Medicaid provider, specifically because providers are required, I think, to have a license generally when we have, as part of their enrollment. And so if you were to license them and then find out that they were unable to be a Medicaid provider, there would likely need to be some provisions in there specifying what occurs.
Thank you. If no one else has any comments or feedback, we'll now start where we left off from the previous track, which is variance. 411-039-0250. And that would be line item 3026 to 3077. Marissa?
Hi. So I scrolled on down here to 411-039-0250. And on the agenda, it's listed as variance, but on the document I'm looking at, it's listed as quality assessment and performance improvement.
Are you looking at the previous one? I know that the one that we first sent off got modified with OHA's language incorporated. And so that was sent, I believe, on the 6th and posted on the web page on the 7th. Not sure. Do you need us to resend that to you, Marissa?
No, I think what's going on, so I'm actually working from the markup, and
Oh, okay.
I think that just the number didn't get struck on that piece of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have a little harder time keeping up, but I am there is current language that I have comments from. It's
Okay.
just that the sections are a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, the markups, just to clarify, the markups was sent based on the feedback that we got from previous rack. And so the markup will show all the changes when OHA incorporated like behavioral health and their definitions. So it's kind of confusing looking at the markup because now there's a lot of uh, pages that you can see that were struck out and just wording change. So it does change the page number and whatnot. So just for your guys' information. But thank you. Let us know, Marissa, whatever helps. But I see Beth.
Thanks. I just was going to request that there be language added to the variance section that makes it clear that the resident's rights, the person who receives care, their rights that are in a different section of these OARs are not subject to the variances.
Thank you. Marissa?
I forgot to unraise my hand. I
No,
really
you're
shouldn't.
okay.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Yeah, I was wanted to flag, and this comes up throughout the rules. So line 3034, it says be submitted to the department and the authority in writing on the forms provided by the department and the authority. So throughout the rules, I've seen a lot of duplication of effort in the sense of like, I guess the question is there a way to simplify this? Or is throughout this document where somebody has to submit things to multiple places, is there a way to streamline it? So do they have to submit everything to both the department and the authority? Is there a way to say, based on the based on where the consumer is getting services from, that's where the documents need to be submitted to. There's just throughout the rules, not just here, there's duplication in effort for doing the same thing. And so I saw that this was kind of the first time that I saw that, and I might flag as we go.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Rachel. And I'll just give it a few more minutes before I call the next person just to make sure that Jenny captures that feedback. Thank you, Jenny. Deborah?
So on line 3049, it talks about identifying the proposed duration of the variance. And then below on 3066 at 5, it talks about the variance being approved or valid for the length of the license unless sooner revoked. So essentially for a year, hypothetically, I propose a variance and then it's valid. So I think this last line could include something. If we're having providers propose the length of the variance, then likely the language should talk about that it's valid for the duration specified in the approved request or for the length of the license. Because hypothetically, I'm proposing a variance for 3 months.
Thank you. And I'm just making sure Jenny captures that feedback. Thank you, Jenny. Marcia?
I just feel it's important to stress that the request needs to happen, written request before the procedures or anything changes. It it needs to go through to the powers that be first.
Thank
When
you,
you
Marcia.
first start talking about variance, it doesn't specifically say that.
Thank you. Eugenia?
No, I forgot to put my hand down, but I just want to echo the previous comment that I think it makes sense if there are variances being requested for a specified time frame, it may be less than the length of the license, and the language around the length of the variance should probably align with the duration that's being requested. And I think that also appears in line 3069. Certainly they must reapply, assuming it bleeds over into the next license renewal period.
Thank you. Marcia? Oh, give me a second,
Thinking
I think.
There, hello.
Hi.
Does the variance request need to mention if it requires additional staff, fewer staff than is legally required, or has higher costs, anything, or just change of way of doing things?
Are you I'm trying to understand. Can you repeat your question again or feedback?
When variance, does that request need to state if it requires
Marcia, sorry to cut you off, but you're being cut off, and it's we can hear every other word. Can you hear us, Marcia?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there we go. Can you repeat it one more time?
When requesting the variance, does it need to include that this change may require additional cost or more staff, fewer staff, service fewer people? Any other details like that besides a change in what they're doing?
I think it would be a change, but we'll look into it. We'll make sure that we look into the OER to make sure and get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
Any other feedback or comments? If not, we'll go into inspections and investigations, OAR 411-039-0260, line items 3078 to 3171. And Marcia? Marcia, do you have a question or feedback or comments? All right, let's go to
No,
Marissa.
I don't.
Okay.
I need to take my hand down. Where is it? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Just for clarity, because I know I saw in the chat a number of people are working from the red line that was provided. The number is not corrected in the red line. It is 411 dash 039 dash 0080 inspections and investigations. But it's the same section. So the concern that I have here is around some language down at number let's see, it's sub 3, which seems to be also a duplicate in the red line. But it says an agency with choice must permit department and authority staff access to any location from which it is operating its agency with choice or providing services. So, in terms of granting permission from a location which they are providing services, that sounds like the intention is for that to be like the recipient of care, their home. And it seems a little strange that the agency with choice would have the authority to permit the department and staff to access the location. Like I think that seems like an overstep of that recipient of care's right to determine who has access to their own home. And not that we wouldn't, obviously encourage that, but it just that language around the agency being the one to permit access to an individual's private home just sort of calls into question the basic, idea of privacy and property rights.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit above here, but there's a reference to an annual inspection, and I was wondering, beyond the initial inspection, an inspection done annually, and I was wondering why that's in there and if it's reflective of other provider types. And I had a couple other comments as well. I think it's above. I think it's at the. I think it's as it gets started. And we're in the A, so line 3082. Yeah, is this time frame like shared with other like provider types, similar provider types? My other question was around as I was reading through, and I agree with what Marissa's bringing up, that like the red line that I'm looking through doesn't match what we're reading here, but it's it's close enough that I'm able to follow along, and I'm hopeful that the comments and the preparation that I did matches this. But when I was reading this section, I read terms like survey, inspection, and investigation, which all sounds like they're trying to say the same thing. So I'm wondering, are these all the same thing, or are they different things that we should? I'm requesting consistency in the language, really. Because I've heard reference to all three of those terms: survey, inspection, investigation. So what's the difference, and can we read through the rules and make sure that it's consistent and indicating what we want it to indicate?
Thank you for your feedback.
I think that's... Oh, I had one other thing. Around, there's mention, I think it's toward the bottom, around an exit conference in this section. At least in what I read.
I think you passed it. Right here, right here.
Oh yeah, exit conference. So the line 3140. And I'm just wondering why, when I read exit conference, to me that sounds like a phone call or a face-to-face time with two different entities. I'm wondering if this is necessary, especially since it's followed by a written information. And so is an exit conference necessary if something in writing that can be shared between the parties can relay the same information?
Thank you. Devry?
So on line 3112, it talks about on-site observations of individuals and staff performance. And then 3118 talks about on-site observations of individuals and staff. And I'm not sure if that's duplicative or if that second 3118 is supposed to be observing something other than performance, but some clarity would be helpful.
Thank you. It might be duplicate. Any other questions in this section for inspections and investigation? And if not, we'll go ahead and go into complaints, which is...
Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea. I just wanted to, this is Tracy Lerner. I just wanted to go to the comment for number 3. I don't know what line that is. But I think Marissa Cade had is it 3? No, it must be.
Yeah, it's sub 3 on the red line.
Well,
an
it was
agency with choice must permit the department.
okay. So that is actually talking about an agency with choices facility or business, place of business. So department
It says,
and
okay,
go ahead.
maybe that would need to be clarified, because it says, and authority staff access to any location from which it is operating its agency with choice. So that would be its business, or providing services. So a location from which they are providing services could be interpreted as the individual's home.
And we'll clean that up. I just wanted
Okay.
to
Yeah.
let you know that
That's
as
not the
far as
intent.
yeah, that wasn't the intent.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we are on complaints, which is OER 411-039-0270, line item 3172 to 3246. We'll give it a few more seconds to see if anyone has any comments or feedback. All right, we'll go into abuse reporting and investigation, which is OAR 411-039-0280, line item 3247 to 3309. And I see Rachel.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm looking at line 3263, 3264, and again, it just is a ton of entities. So all agency with choice employees are required to immediately report abuse and suspected abuse to APD office, local AAA, CMHP, Otis, department or authority, and the agency with choice administrator. So that's 6 or 7 entities. The way that this reads is that they have to report to every single one of them, which seems really onerous. And I'm wondering if there's a way to consolidate this type of reporting.
Yeah, and our intent was like they would report it and we would send it to the right entity, but it definitely needs clarification in there.
Yeah, I think and this is Tracy Lerner again. I think the intent was that they just need to report it to one of those agencies and then we'll take care of the rest, like Andrea said.
Thank you, Tracy.
Can I ask a question about that? I'm sorry to interrupt. If someone else has their hand raised, I can't tell. Just tell me to wait.
No, you're good.
Okay. I just I mean, I don't know. Would your agency be able to ensure that if a report was only made to CMHP, for example, that it would then also be made to all the other or shared with all the other agencies?
What we can say on that part is that it does happen already. Like it goes, sometimes it goes to the wrong agency and we send it to the correct one. So that's what we were thinking, but we'll make sure we look into it and clarify on the language to make sure that when they send it out to, let's say, the AAA office, it goes to the right department or anything like that. But I feel like there needs to be more of a language clarification and maybe a bit, like you mentioned, Beth, a bit more like another section in regards to that. But thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Beth. We currently have, some folks served in like APD group homes where their funding comes from like the DD source. And so that cross reporting is pretty fundamental to our system. But I agree the language could be cleaned up. So thank you.
I didn't know, like, I didn't know that happened already with like the local AAAs or CMHP. So it sounds like it already is an open channel of communication. So.
Thank you, Beth. Marcia?
Party provide a mandatory for 7.
You're getting cut off again. So I didn't get that. Can you repeat that one more time?
Are the providers of care mandatory reporters of abuse, neglect, 24/7, similar to home care workers, PSWs?
Yeah, for direct support workers, they will be mandatory reporters as well as agency staff. That is mandatory. If that was, I couldn't capture the first part, but
Will
if
this be noted somewhere that they will be?
yeah, there's a section for it. Let me
Okay,
Yeah, but it's in
that's all
within the
right.
OAR. Yeah, no problem. We'll
Okay,
follow
thank you.
up to let you know what section too, if you had any other feedback. Um, Patty?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just wondering, since all other providers are required to report to that 800 abuse line, that would seem to me to be faster than trying to call and leave a message, say for a local CDP or whatever. I'm curious as to the rationale behind all providers having one line that they report to. That just seems much more efficient to me.
Thank you for that feedback, and that's something that we probably would have to look into to see if it would meet um, all requirements. But thank you, Patty. It's really good. And I'm going to give it a few seconds for Jenny to capture that comment as well. Thank you, Jenny. Marcia? I will be assuming that you didn't intend to have your hand raised, but if not, we'll go to the next section. If no one else has any other comments, and the next section is enforcement, which is OAR 411-039-0290, line item 33103376. And Marcia, I still see your hand up, but I will go to Rachel.
I think this is a number 4. There was a reference to 30 days instead of 60 days. And I'm wondering why that is. Why the change from 60 days to 30 days. Yeah, it looks like it's the top there, 3349.
3342?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, no problem.
So the language previously was 60 days and it was switched to 30.
Yes, and we'll look into that. I know that we wanted to stay within the standards, but we'll see and I'll give you guys more information on that.
Okay, that'd be helpful.
Well,
I also saw that there's some language outside of or kind of past that where the agency with choice has a certain timeline to request or kind of respond, and I'm wondering if there's a way to embed the agency with choice being able to request an extension if they deem that correcting deficiencies is going to take longer than that timeline. Like I couldn't see anywhere in here where there's, depending on what it is, what if they need longer than
Yeah.
the time allotted? Is there a way they can request that?
Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
And then the last thing, and I'm sorry, I apologize, I don't really know what line I'm on. I'm just kind of made notes generally in the section, but there's language around the time that that the agency with choice needs that says that they need to submit a written plan of correction versus just correcting the deficiencies themselves. So I was wondering if we could get more clarity in this section on the difference between, is it a timeline for submitting the plan of correction, or is it the timeline for actually correcting all the deficiencies?
Okay.
And just to put a fine line in it while we're still kind of typing, depending on what the deficiency is, it might take longer than what's given. So I think at the core, whatever you all land on should be reasonable, and there should be a way for the agency with choice to request more time and kind of a rationale for that time if it's needed.
Thank you. And Marcia, I'm not sure if you have your hand up.
I apologize. I'm having a keyboarding problem.
Oh, no worries.
Can't get it on my hand down.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
I lowered the hand for you, Marcia.
If anyone doesn't have any other feedback or comments, we'll go ahead and go into civil penalties, which is OAR 411-039-0300, line item 3377 to 3426. Marissa?
Admittedly, my eyes are a little glazed over on this late Friday afternoon, but right at the top there in sections 1 and 3, the description of the civil penalties not to exceed 1,000 per violation and may not total more than 2,000. It just seems a little redundant to have that all spelled out in the first one and then spell it out again in the third. So maybe combining 1 and 3 and then having the additional definitions of failure to comply below. And just sort of cleaning that up and combining them together if possible.
Thank you, Marissa. I'm going to give it a few more seconds for Jenny to finish up here to make sure we capture the comment. Oh,
while she's writing, I think too, just in general, and I noticed Rachel saying some similar comments, and even the recommendation around the phone reporting phone number and some of the other suggestions, just generally tightening up any redundant language and grouping things together that are similarly worded and making the rules as actionable and simple to follow and understand as possible would be beneficial.
Thank you. Thank you, Marissa. I did see someone's hand go up, but I couldn't capture who. I'm not sure if they still have a comment or feedback on this section. Okay, if no one else has any comments or feedback, we'll go into the next section, which is conditions. OAR 411-039-0310, line item 3427 to 3488. Rachel?
Yeah, I had a comment about, I think it's section 5. of this, or line number 5 in this section. So conditions imposed remain in effect until the department and authority have sufficient cause to believe the situation that warranted the condition has been remedied. If the licensee believes the situation that warranted the condition has been remediated or remedied, the licensee may request in writing that the condition be removed. I was hoping that we could add some timelines that on the department or authority to be able to respond. So the licensee may request in writing that the condition be removed, and the department or authority needs to respond to the licensee about that request within a reasonable period of time.
Thank you for that feedback. Any other comments or questions on this section? If not, we'll go ahead and move along to denial, suspension, or revocation of license, which is OAR 411-039-0320, line item 3489 to 3474. Rachel?
If we scroll down to G, I think it is. Failure to disclose history. A failure to know history. I'm sorry, I'm looking at, and again, yeah, there we go. It's G. History of prior denial, suspension, revocation, or refusal. Is the intention of this language that the number could be revoked because there's a history here? Or is the intention, should it be that there wasn't notification of the prior denial or suspension? Like the way this reads says, if they have this history at all, they can, their license could be revoked.
I think it would be a time of the agency with choice would apply, the agencies would apply for, and then time of renewal. But we can clarify that in with better, clear language on this section. Thank you for that. Marissa?
Hi there. I am just wanting to clarify. I have some other folks listening in who are still feeling a little confused about what version of the rules we're working from. So actually, if you could post a link in the chat or resend that so I could pass it along to some folks, that would be great.
Yeah, what I can do is resend it after this. It's also in the red line wasn't intended, it was just for your guys' information as you guys provided feedback and wanted to see the changes that were made. But the one previous to that, on that one that was sent out on the 6th, pretty late on the 6th on Monday, I think it was Monday, is the clean version of it. With all, but I will resend it. That way it doesn't cause any more confusion or anything like that. I'll resend it after this meeting. That way everyone can get it. That way it goes to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for that too. Well, with that being said, we are at the end of the OARs. Like we mentioned, we're working on having another one in for the next month. We don't know the time and day yet, but we will let you guys know as soon as we know. We're going to go ahead and look at the equity impact statement to
Andrea?
see. Yeah.
Excuse me. I posted a link where the rules are in the chat, and there's a comment or a question from Beth Englander. Are there rules included in here anywhere to protect the recipient of services if the agency with choice license is taken away through requirements of continuity of care or other provisions?
Okay. And we'll get back to her on that. And I
Okay.
see a hand raised. Hold on. Marissa?
Yeah, thank you. I just have a request at the next RAC since, in terms of organizing the conversation, I think it would be beneficial, first of all, to have access to whatever materials we're going to be reviewing that day with as much advanced notice as possible. I know you guys try to do that anyway, but I just want to put that on the record and to really maximize that. And also, perhaps I know there will be time limitations and there's a number of us participating. So maybe the team could think through some ways that we could free up the space for a time limited general comment period for each section or for each or for certain blocks of text or some way to capture some general feedback in a setting like this where so that in addition to having our written comments submitted between now and then for you all to work from, that we can have some way of sharing as a group the concerns that remain, if that makes sense.
Yes. We'll work on that, definitely. And we'll communicate that as well through email. So just please be in the lookout for those emails that will be coming your guys' way. We're planning to send all the material as well, but we'll let you guys know once we know what day that would be in the time, for sure. So getting back to the equity impact statement, if anyone has any questions or feedback. And I'll give it a few more seconds to see if anyone has any feedback. And just a reminder, if you guys do that, you guys have any comments or feedback after this meeting or later on, even if you think about it over the weekend, I hope not, but over the weekend, please feel free to email us with your feedback and comments at our generic email. And I just posted it in our chat so you guys have it. We encourage you to do that as it just comes up or next week if you guys have any feedback. But I see a hands up. Marissa?
Yeah, thank you. It's more just a sort of general comment that equity provisions and like the equity lens is so valuable for evaluating the objective of like providing maximum choice and independence for our clients through this type of program. And the rulemaking has such an integral part in how that feels, how that like actually results in care in someone's home. And so I would just request that the equity impact statement also be used as like a filter, a lens through which to look at the rules before their final draft so that we can maximize people's dignity and their self-direction, which is really sort of at the heart of what this type of program is intended to do. So I just would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, we'll go into the fiscal impact statement. Rachel?
I noticed the 2025 date at the top. Does that indicate that anything has changed in the content of this from the original fiscal?
No, so this information we got it off straight from the House bill, since everything's just an estimate of about how much it's going to take, what's needed to be able to get this program up and running. So most of this information is just an estimate so far, but this is all what we have, and we took it from the House bill directly from the House bill 4129.
And were there any changes to the assumptions around caseload estimates or cost assumptions at all?
No.
Okay, great.
Marissa?
Yeah, I think just generally some of the more detailed provisions here in this set of proposed rules regarding the fine details of like medication assistance administration, et cetera, or the travel requirements, some of the timelines and requirements for the licensure process, et cetera. So some of those things are incredibly granular and there's more of it than was initially envisioned in the advocacy for the bill that created this program. And so I think to the extent possible, in order to make this budget, it will be necessary to try to really simplify and pare things down and be very clear about what is necessary for an agency with choice model versus a different model, and to make sure there's not anything included that shouldn't be. So just wanted to flag that as a concern, just that some of the increased scope of what the rules are seeking to define rather than what might be defined, for instance, in an RFP or contract between the department and an agency with choice. To the extent that things can be removed from rule and administered through a contract or RFP process may help to stick to the fiscal impact statement. That'd be our concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. And we'll give it a few more seconds to see if anyone else has any feedback or comments. Well, I think we're at the end of our RAC meeting. Oh, Rachel?
This wasn't on this, but I just wanted to ask if you all had a date for when the comments are actually due. If you're having another meeting scheduled into February, giving us notice on when those comments are going to be due officially would be great.
Well, we stated that the 28th, that would be on a Tuesday at the end of day, for comments or any other feedback be sent to our generic email. And I'll put that again because sometimes it gets buried in the comments. But end of day on the 28th, and just let us know if that doesn't work. But the 28th would be the due date, even like on the 29th in the morning, but let us know if that's the case. But the 28th, if you guys can provide all your guys' feedback or comments on these current OERs, that way we can definitely dig into all those and have enough time to include them or adjust the OERs based on the feedback and comments that we received in these two RAC meetings. but we want to appreciate everyone's feedback and comments and time. Your guys' time has been very valuable to us. So let us know. But the 28th would be end of day at 5 p.m. In our generic inbox that I just put in the chat if anyone wants to reach out or has questions or needs to follow up. And we're constantly checking that inbox daily, numerous of times of days. Once again, thank you all for your participation. We really appreciate all you for coming and engaging with us. And we hope to see you guys soon. We will be, like mentioned before, we will be reaching out to you guys with updated information on our next rack. And that is to follow. So just be on the lookout on the emails and it'll be posted on the webpage. We'll try to do it like we have so everyone gets the same information and as soon as possible. But thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
This is Cheryl
Andrea-
Staff. Could you please disconnect me?